Welcome to Insight Out, an NOV livecast that talks about business, leadership, and technology. I'm Assaad Mohanna. I'm Director of Business Strategy here at NOV, and I am glad you are joining us today. With us is a very special guest today. My guest is President of Edwards Energy Innovation Consultancy and is a leader in everything that's digital transformation, innovation, and advocacy. Michael Edwards is joining us today. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hi, Assaad. Thanks so much. It's my pleasure.
It's great to have you. Michael, I would love to go down your full bio, but I think that'll consume a big part of the show. So I'm going to summarize it and you'll tell us a little bit more. Michael, you've spent half of your career in the service company world. You've spent time with Schlumberger as a global offshore field engineer, went on to several others, Energage, Nalco, Baker Hughes, and Tesco, before spending the rest of your career, and that's what, the last 14, 15 years with BP. And I really want to know a lot more about that. But first, I would like to hear from you, Michael. Who is Michael Edwards?
Assaad, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be asked by you and David and others at NOV to come talk. But I often like to start with my name because it's usually the elephant in the room and many people ask. And it's also in the spirit of embracing differences and sharing with you my own D&I moment. My name is Michael. It was given to me by my parents at birth. It wasn't a name that I changed. It's a lifelong journey that I've had, with probably more than 40 countries that I've visited. You can imagine the very interesting conversations that I've been faced with. But I found early in my career, the power of having an icebreaker and a conversational piece can be very, very useful. It is those somewhat awkward, a bit adversarial judgments of my name that cause the most interesting, insightful discussions. Yeah. You can imagine people assuming that my parents wanted a boy, assuming that maybe I picked this name or maybe I was French. But it was those conversations that I started to form bridges and leave people with different perspectives. This building of bridges also opened my eyes to my own personal purpose and how I can best serve others and progress those areas that I'm most passionate about. So please do embrace your differences and as a superpower, I believe.
Well, I tell you that is, appreciate you sharing that. And, if it's anything, for me, coming from Lebanon, named Assaad is not exactly a name that people are familiar with. So I sort of know what you're talking about, but appreciate you sharing that personal insight there. Michael, we talked a bit about your career. I want to hear from your own words. Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Assaad. I've been very fortunate to have the career that's now stretched at 3 decades. I did start, as you mentioned, in the field as a field engineer on one of the first deepwater rigs in the Deepwater Gulf of Mexico. It was a Reading and Bates rig for those that are out there. I also worked in the North Sea offshore Norwegian sector, as well as in South America in Peru and Trinidad. I was selected to join a startup company that was based in Aberdeen, Scotland, setting up rotary steerable operations from Rio to Anchorage with our leader here in the States. I went on to work for a limited partnership with Exxon Chemical, starting entry into deep water for the first flow assurance effort in the industry. I went on to lead and secure Baker Hughes' role in deep water with a fantastic team of leaders across 6 divisions. Very exciting team. The team also is known as the Do It team. And we were positioned to overcome obstacles that traditional organization and divisions couldn't tackle on their own. It was quite exciting period for my career. The collected goals was to enter the deep water and increase market share in key deep water basins around the world. The results were quite astounding and even surprised me. I went on to work for a founder and CEO of a small casing drilling company. And that exposure was wide, a variety of key decisions at the C-suite and board decisions that opened my eyes, particularly around financial scenario planning and learning what it took to effectively run a company. I actually came to BP through a friend of mine who contacted me at my home and asked me to come work for him when he went into a new role as VP of technology within BP. To be quite frank, I asked why me. I didn't believe at that time that operators had the same mindset as we in the service company sector, who had clear focus on technology, a return on investment. We were actually competing and doing much better in some of the performance angles as well. This held true mostly in my integrated projects in Trinidad, India, Morocco, and some other places around the world. I went ahead and took the offer with the idea that I was only going to be with, BP for a few years, knowing how things change. I wanted this insider view of how operators make decisions on technology. But I'm so pleased, very pleased that I spent 15 years, more than half of my career with BP. My best friends came through this work, and they stretch across the industry in ways that I would never have imagined at the time. After a series of leadership roles within BP, including the development of some very first industry areas, the first digital portfolio strategy for BP and the industry at that time, the first data transfer protocol for the first advisor system that was fueled by our very own rule-based expert system, was also another area. It became very clear that me and my team were transforming the way that we were deploying technologies, but we didn't realize it at the time. But, at the end of the day, this wouldn't have been possible without executive sponsorship, which I'm forever grateful for.
Of course.
As a result of this, I was asked to go on leadership team in the Gulf of Mexico. So, yeah.
So I call you. You traveled the world. You made some fantastic contacts and relationships, and you made some great initiatives that probably still live with us today. You miss travel, don't you?
Believe it or not, I actually traveled in the United States in a secured vehicle, about 12 states with family and friends. And I must say it's one of the most reflecting moments of this last year during the pandemic for me. Yes.
Michael, I want to talk about maybe Macondo. You probably lived that in your experience in the Gulf of Mexico. What was that like?
Well, I will tell you that I'll never forget the evening of the fire. I was woken up by my husband, who received a call that evening in the middle of the night. As many of you know, he worked for Transocean and was in charge of digital security. And when satellite connections go down, he is woken up in the middle of the night. He was woken up that evening with a small text, an alarm, digital voice alarm that said that the Deepwater Horizon was on fire. He immediately asked in a stern voice to me if the Deepwater Horizon was mine, was BP's. And I said, yes. In fact, my boss is on that rig. Okay. And the guy that hired me. He responded that it was on fire. Knowing this rig very well and knowing the folks that operated on this well and how far it was from shore, I did swallow deeply, and we went directly into emergency response. Yeah. Without any words, we proceeded to get up. We got dressed. We went to the office. We went right into response. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt this incident did mark all of our lives in some way. In the investigation report, and as many of you know, the Bly report, which was excellently written by an expert team, did indicate the 8 barriers that were breached. I'm often asked about these 8 barriers, and some people ask, what do you mean by barriers?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, Assaad, it only took one of those barriers to prevent this incident from occurring. And that's exactly the impact that most people know. But we have learned a lot from the incident and continue to remember the most important aspect of this incident, which are the 11 precious lives that were lost.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And it is held up in our heart in remembrance because this last month, as you know, was the anniversary.
The 11th, yeah.
Yeah, the 11th. So I would encourage those that are on your live cast, if they haven't heard the BBC special, and hopefully we can put that link up here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 11th anniversary reunion of the Deepwater Horizon folks. And I do think it is a very well, and it really personalizes the experience of the entire incident. From Admiral Thad Allen to one of the fathers of his son that passed away, speak very powerfully along with a team of experts. But this incident did impact not just the United States, the world, our industry as a whole, but also the lives that served on the rig, supporting vessels, and in the response that followed.
Appreciate you sharing your personal experience in a very, very tragic incident 11 years ago last month. Michael, how do you think that incident changed our industry?
Well, there was no surprise that understanding my purpose took on a profound point of reflection for me. My innate sense of building bridges did serve my work and Central Command during the response, but most importantly, I played, along with many others, a major part in building back a better industry following the incident. Without these bridges, we would not have had the kind of standards nor the level of collaboration we have today, no doubt.
Definitely a lot more collaboration, different way of thinking. Even technology, the concept of human factor became a lot stronger since, I believe, and to fortify our systems and our technology and our operation to prevent something like that from happening again. Definitely a big tragedy. Yeah, great story, Michael. I want to talk a little bit about some of the transitions you've gone through, and you've shifted from tech. You've done leadership and advocacy. What's that like?
It's interesting. My work with the U.S. government during the response extended to global advocacy and governments, industry groups, companies, and communities around the world following. My work and focus on industry standards are some of the most formative partnerships I think we still hold today. I'm continuing to do this, keeping in mind such of these standards are only possible with high diverse teams and stakeholders at the table, where alignment challenges are initially very, very high. Opposing views were actually sought out and were seen as very important. Conflict resolution probably was 50% of my time.
Yeah.
And those standards that we have today, whether they're well control standards, BOP reliability, but also the new digital technology for remote operation standards. I'm so pleased to be and grateful for this opportunity.
Yeah, lots has changed. I mean, especially with COVID, it's like we've been forced to adopt everything that we've been talking about. Everything accelerated so much that we were forced to operate remotely and to reduce personnel on board. And it's fascinating how much change we've seen, not just in the last decade, but only in the last 2 or 3 years.
Absolutely. Before leaving BP last year, I was asked to go back into what I would call a semi-technology role, something I do naturally, and develop the transformation ambition. It was a $2 billion ambition that myself and a great team within the Global Wells organization developed. my portfolio not only extended to technology, but also included new programs for embedding agile ways of working. We also had an engagement program to assist leadership in our organizational mindset shift that I led. So that was exciting.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. Some of the things that I'm working on today is really extending that ambition to the greater industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like talking about technology. This is an NOV show after all, so we can't get away from that. I wanna hear from you. What in terms of technology adoption, how has that behavior changed, and where do you think we are today?
Okay, so I'm going to shift gears. Next week we have a 2-week roadmap for well construction technology roadmap.
Okay.
And for those that are out there, this is an SPE roadmap. About 70 individuals will be in these breakout sessions with the intent to develop that roadmap. And it is going to be just addressing just what you said, Assaad, about what are the changes in adopting technology today, considering what we've learned.
And that's is that it's an SPE forum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a SPE forum, absolutely, and it is about looking at the future of our wells construction process, design and implementation and operations.
And how can people look that up?
Yeah, we can share that link with you, but it is out there. It is the forum that is going to be starting next Monday.
Excellent. Okay, what else? What else are you doing these days, Michael?
Okay, Assaad, that's great. I opened up the door and now I'm serving, believe it or not, I think I lost count a bit, on 6 different boards, half of which are rotating boards, that is. But I made these decisions on serving on these boards to forward and progress some of the key industry issues that are close to my heart, no doubt. And those areas very well because, of course, we've been working together. I think 2 decades, David and myself have worked on this, I think with Tony and others on automation, because we strongly believe and we know today through our efforts that it does make us safer and more efficient in the well control process to have automated systems. As you know, yeah. So
I was just going to say, for those who don't know who David is, that's David Reed, our Chief Technology and Chief Marketing Officer here at NOV, who's been driving the automation conversation for over a decade for sure. And Tony Pink, he's our CTO for our Wellbore Technology segment. Him too, I guess, been working in the same circles as you, Michael, in pushing that conversation forward.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I came in and I put a challenge to the SPE Drilling Systems Automation Group, and they embraced it. And it was all about, we know how to automate. Why are we not scaling up? And that actually landed the first entry talk at the IADC SPE conference in March. So it's recorded for those that want to see it.
Good.
So pleased of that.
Great. Well, for those that are just joining us, we're talking to Michael Edwards. Michael, I want to kind of change a little bit and talk about what you're doing with the workforce of the future. We talked a little about that. I want you to share that with the audience.
Excellent. Well, the workforce of the future is an exciting area that we're working, and it bridges a number of initiatives in the marketplace today that are underway, whether they're in research, financial, academic institutions, or other industry groups that are uplifting diversity, inclusion, equity, gender equality, and ensuring representation of marginalized groups. It's paramount that we are proactively approaching this workforce of the future and defining what that looks like in the wake of the pandemic and the market downturn. Shaping the way that we defined our workforce of the future is critical in us shaping the future and ushering in our energy transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to thank IOGP,
Mhm.
who has taken the lead in sponsoring this, and also Amaretta Hess. Very important that Amaretta Hess be recognized here, because they did nominate an executive, Evelyn McLean, who is a fantastic executive leader. I'm sure you've seen Evelyn out speaking, but she is now leading this effort and is making a huge difference in shaping this initiative. It's brand new, and I'd love to come back with Evelyn and we can share with you more on the initiative.
Oh, absolutely. Sounds like an exciting and interesting initiative. And it's amazing how the transition, I mean, you mentioned that, and I want to talk to that a little bit, but it's that energy transition is not only in the diversification of energy sources, but, and we talked about this on the show in the past, it's an opportunity for us to transition into a better industry, into a better workplace, into a better environment for everybody to be included. It's a great transformational opportunity for everybody to fix some of the challenges that we have.
Absolutely.
I wanna pull in our social media expert, Shelby Dumaine. If I can read her mind, I think she has one or two questions for you, Michael.
I do. That's right. So the first question I wanted to ask, and I think a little explanation on the back end of it is, I think nowadays a kind of story is fed to a lot of the public, and especially kids, that oil and gas professionals are these villains, or we're hurting, the world. And so I'm wondering, from an advocacy standpoint, what can we as individuals working in this industry who love it, who know all the good points, what can we do to kind of help further that news or that information that, they're all the good that we do?
Shelby, that is a really important and very thoughtful question that many of us that are faced with, whether it is in our dinner conversation, we're actually out and about talking to others. But, one of the areas that I'm so excited about is this new chapter of communications. There's a number of groups that I'm working with, in particular, Scott Tinker and his team. For those that don't know Scott Tinker, he is an academic at University of Texas and has made a huge impact in the way that we're communicating to audiences. He's traveled around 37 countries, showing the world how the role of energy is uplifting communities out of poverty. This is very important because access to power, heat, light, and mobility is very limited around the world. We can make a difference, and it is about reliable and affordable energy, particularly in our backyard. There are communities that don't have access. We even know that here in Texas, the 6 million that had a power outage in February.
Right. Yeah. And I'll maybe add to that when we say our role is to maximize the bottom line of our customers, I think at the forefront of what we do is make sure that technology is available to everybody, and at the cost that's scalable worldwide. And that, to echo on Michael's message, I think that's an important aspect of what oil and gas does.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We do all have a very powerful voice, and Shelby, thank you for bringing that up. But we collectively have an even more powerful voice when we are united. And I do think our industry is, and I brought Scott up because you're going to see more come out of our communication in what we're seeing. I even see it with Leslie, with the service sector. She's doing a fantastic job. And Assaad, the fact that you're carrying this conversation and the exposure on the value that we're bringing our communities, and these communities would not be the same without power, and they wouldn't be able to be lifted out of poverty as they are around the world.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah, absolutely. And this next question, we get a lot of people in our comments who either are, just now entering the industry for the first time, whether they just graduated or maybe changing their career. And then also some people who are coming back to the industry after maybe a long time away. And I'm curious, what is your advice for someone? It's kind of a hectic time maybe on the outside to be entering into energy. But what advice would you have for those folks?
First of all, find your passion. Find what it is that you're most interested in. What I'm finding fascinating is the amount of individuals that are, very interested in certain aspects. They're redefining their entire career path. Carbon capture is a key area that I'm finding a lot of integrity folks going into. They didn't realize that they could actually make such a huge impact on our environment in such a powerful way. So those that are coming in, this is a great industry. We like to think ourselves as a big family as well. You're welcome. We need your ideas. The more diverse, the better.
Yeah. And, to that, I think it's fascinating that there are some challenges that are clear to us and that we have set the way on how to resolve them. I mean, that's exciting. If I'm just graduating from school, I'm going to look for a problem to solve, and guess what? We have a couple of those. So I think that's good enough incentive to pull new generations in. Michael, I want to shift back to where we were. We talked about digital transformation and how we're seeing technology evolve in that space. Tell us a little bit about what is that's making companies successful in going over that transformation.
So this is a pretty fascinating area as well. We like to hold up the statistics as an indication of what is happening in the digital transformation space. We do know, and this is across the industry, that only 20% of companies are actually successful in digital transformation. The numbers in energy are actually lower. And there are some areas that when we look at the small percentage of those that are successful, that we're seeing the key threads. One of the areas that I'm seeing is this high investment on proof of concepts. This is quite natural in technology. Technology deployment is to push in investments with proof of concepts. But it's those companies that are able to move out of proof of concept quickly into a DevOps culture, DevOps world, where software systems, technologies are moving right into full-scale audit application. And it's really interesting to see some of the cultures of those companies as well.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, there's something that's coming up about data that you're involved in as well.
Yeah, so I'm on the data analytics Gulf Coast section for SPE, and I'm very, very happy to be part of this young, exciting, fast-moving team. We have our annual data science convention. Yeah, I know it's part of my language. Convention that will be a hybrid event, and the hybrid event will be your option to be face-to-face, which will be here in Houston at the North Center, or you can join us online virtually. It's pretty exciting. We're going to have a panel of diversity and inclusion and the aspects of how that connects in the digital world that we're in, and the learnings on that. We'll have a big poster session, virtual poster session as well, and we're waiting to unveil the new keynote speaker. So that's going to be July 8th this year.
Yeah, great. And I think we can have that link in the chat. Shameless plug, I think you have a pretty robust panel on that event, of which our own NOV's John Walters is participating in. Vice President of Data Analytics with our completion and production group. I think he'll be talking a little bit about what we're doing in that space. But great initiative to share the successes and the trials and the initiatives to connect not just drilling, but also everything past that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael, I want to talk a little bit about how you find yourself as an individual in the middle of this industry, and really the purpose, the general purpose that you talked about, and you mentioned building bridges, and I find that just a fascinating way of describing it, because it's extremely powerful when you're in any industry to be able to build those collaborations and bridges. How have you experienced that in your career?
Building bridges comes deep in a purpose, but it's also about reflecting on what is an innate sense of what drives you. There's no doubt in my mind that, my name, as I mentioned, started making me reflect early in my career how I can build bridges. Like I said, going into representing BP externally, following the response with governments, communities, and companies around the world to develop standards. As many of you know, 99% of regulations are standards. And when we can do that, especially in the global mobile market that we're in, it is very important that we come together. What we found was quite interesting with regards to alignment on different views, and the more diverse views, the better. And we needed to seek out those views, bring them to the table, and listen very, very closely. That's part of bridge building. I often like to think I know what the bridge would look like ahead of time, but what's most exciting is understanding that there may be new material, new insights to bridge building that I uncover personally myself and for my companies as well.
It's such a skill to find those potential bridges when everybody's probably thought there's no hope, and really the strength and power and the gift is identifying the ability to create something new, and I applaud you for that effort. Shelby, you're back with us. I'm guessing we have more questions.
That's right. That's a good indication that the audience been throwing something out if I pop up back on screen. And we got a question from Curtis on LinkedIn, and I thought this was a fantastic question. He asked, do you find historically our industry has been lacking in passing down information and training to new individuals coming into the industry? Is there a way to increase this communication?
Absolutely. I do believe that communication needs to be ramped up fast. And I believe we have pockets of that. And keep in mind and stay tuned. I think you're only going to see more of this. And I agree. If you need to reach out, let me know if there's anything particular that you need. We'll get you hooked up.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, that's all the audience questions for me. So I'll send it back to you, Assaad.
Thank you, Shelby. Michael, this has been a great and exciting conversation. Any final words, Michael?
Well, I would also like to emphasize, that each one of us do have a voice. Please do not feel you're alone out there. Give us a call, connect with us on LinkedIn. Let us know what your thoughts are. We do need your participation in sharing this great news that we have with supplying energy around the world and uplifting communities through providing heat, light, mobility. It's very, very important that we all play a role in this. Thank you, Assaad. It's a great honor to be with you and Shelby today.
Michael, it has been our honor to have you on this show. Thank you for being with us, and congratulations on everything that you're doing and your journey. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching or listening to Inside Out, an NOV podcast about leadership, business, and technology. From everyone here at NOV, live from Houston, Texas, I want to thank our audience for being with us. And I want to thank Shelby, Kamal, and the production team for making this whole thing happen. And stay tuned for NOV Live coming up next. on NOV social media channels. And until I see you again next time in another episode of Insight Out, take care.